It's Bacteria Day. Oh, it's day 6.
It is day 6. And here we are. That's almost halfway through the sale. That's like halfway.
Well, all right. Well, we started with day 6 on the frame there, or 5, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's day 6.
Dave, man, we got Dave jamming. So you got like last minute, you got a whole bunch of bacteria stuff in for us. All right. So welcome everybody. Glenn, $4.99. Comments are coming all the crazy. He's always giving us $5. Just appreciate that. So
he
thank you
says
very
he's
much.
looking forward to the PAR testing on the Hydra 32, and we're actually getting it for the 64 as we speak.
So totally different this time.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to get hung up on it because we got a bunch of stuff to go over, but totally different this time, man. BRS TV Investigates. We're up in our game on lighting, testing. We're not just going to test it, but we're going to tell you how to use the damn thing.
That's
right?
all we care about.
All right. So today, it's like there's a whole bunch of stuff on here. Again, everybody knows this spiel at this point, man. Give us your tips on anything you spot on the table. Some of it being like these ceramic bricks, the MicroBacter7, the Regal. You can't really see here, so I'm going to move it over here. The DC skimmer. You can see the pump over here now.
It's the Regal and the internal and the space-saving skimmers on sale today.
Regal skimmers. We also give tips on those things, how to use them. And then we have all these bacteria stuffs, man. The BioMate, the CyanoClean, the Dr. Tim's Waste Away, the MicroBacter Clean, Vibrant, and this was the Clean, and this is the 7. All right, so we got all of these different things in here. Give your tips on how to use them. We're gonna share our thoughts on this stuff and like try to like demystify it a little bit today as well, because like there's distinct differences between all of these things out here, and we're gonna help kind of hone in on what those might be. But so give those tips, and then you can win everything on the table here, including like, I don't know, this one is probably about $1,000 a day or something like that. Right here.
It's pretty good.
The Regal pumps as well on here. This is like one of the best-selling ones. Customer service guys love this one because nobody ever calls. Nobody ever says, hey, this thing broke. So this is our #1 favorite in that spirit. It's got 5 speeds, whatever. It's nice. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. But so featured items today. First one is
Vibrant.
Vibrant.
Man, this was a big video because I think 25,000 of you have watched it so far, and the results that we had over 9 weeks of dosing Vibrant, it's pretty undeniable, the results.
So hot tip. So go watch the Vibrant video if you haven't already. 25,000 people watched it, but today, we're going to give you like 2 weeks more of update on it. So that's what we were jamming today with Dave, poor guy. And we got like a bunch of 2 weeks more photos in there. So if you haven't seen it, you can watch today. And when we get to the Vibrant, we'll show you like 6 tanks of results. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right. And so after that one is the MicroBacter7 special today with the Export and the Export NO3 bricks.
Yeah, well, if you get the Bio Brick and the Export NO3 bricks, that's the one with the dimples. You can also pick up a MicroBacter Clean or MicroBacter7. That's a 250 ml bottle. So this little guy size right here comes with it free.
All right. So for those who don't know, MicroBacter7. What do you think the 7 stands for?
7 types of bacterial strains.
Yes, that's what it is. And so they're all dormant in there and in a dormant state. And there's 7 different. Some of them are designed for consuming ammonia and turning it into safe nitrate, and some other ones in there are designed heterotrophic bacteria. It's designed to clean the tank. So they go walking around the tank looking for organics to munch on it. And
it's the stuff I was looking for in the microscope. Just trying to find these things eating on the bacteria. We're still working on it.
Yeah. So actually, I looked, man, and I was surprised to find out MicroBacter7 is actually 2 to 1 the most popular of the the bacteria additives that are used to cycle a tank, right? So like almost 2 to 1, most popular, so by a landslide. So that's really cool. So if you're going to pick up one of these bricks, you can get one of these free for today.
Yeah,
is that today only, or is that for the wholesale?
No, it's happening until while supplies last.
All right, so that's one of those things where we'll probably run out of bricks before we run out of MicroBacter7. We have to go look. But so there's that. Also, CyanoClean is 15% off here, right?
KZ stuff.
So this is KZ stuff. KZ's actually had some of these bacterial products out, arguably the longest.
Long time.
Yeah, many years. So CyanoClean here says special bacteria strain that outcompetes cyanobacteria. You can go read the reviews on it, and it absolutely works. One of the things though is it doesn't work like you use like a red stain remover or whatever.
Yeah,
the
ChemiClean.
ChemiCleans and stuff, and it happens like overnight. When you use bacteria stuff, took you 2 months to get there.
Yeah.
It'll take you 2 months to get out, but a much more natural way to get out of it. So the CyanoClean is one of them.
And the BioMate,
And then
too.
the BioMate. Yeah, this is also one of the originals. Like, you know, but it's like not super clear until like, I think 2020 is gonna be like the year of bacteria. People start to understand how to actually use these as a tool properly. And so BioMate, clean substrate and rock, reduction of mulm deposits. And so what it does is all that garbage that collects on and inside your rock, the heterotrophic bacteria in here will go in and munch all that stuff up, turn it into nutrients, and allow your skimmer and rest of your filtration to actually remove it from the tank. So a super easy way to use that. There's some of the other ones up here that will do that as well.
Yeah.
Doorbuster number one also is the Regal skimmers, we said. 15% off of all of the Regal skimmers, so it's a little bit deeper discount than the regular Octopus sale.
Yeah, that's the Regal space-saving design, so the pump went inside the body, and the internal design, so just like this one where the pump's outside the body, it's on these single pump skimmers.
So if you haven't caught on yet in any of our videos, like the DC model, the ability to change the amount of air you put in there, really big advantage. So those are really cool. And then today only, so this, you got to get this deal today or it's gone, is Dr. Tim's Waste Away.
Buy two, get one free 8-ounce bottles.
Yeah, buy two, get one free. And so that's a super awesome deal.
Day only. Got to get on that one.
Yeah, so what this does the same kind of thing. Cleans all your rock, heterotrophic bacteria, scours your rock surface and cleans it for you. Keeps crushed coral beds clean, removes gunky hidden waste, dissolves sludge, increasing ORP, keeps natural filter pads cleaner longer, and it's 100% natural. I believe Dr. Tim has actually told me that this is derived from seawater-based bacteria. So, like one of the only that actually does that.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are not marine-based bacteria. They're used for other industries and then applied to this for specific purposes. So this is a cool one. So there you go.
Awesome.
We're going to dive really deep into this bacteria stuff today, but we're just going through the deals right now.
And then, last but not least, swag item. Every day we're featuring a swag item at the top of the website. You'll see today is this bulk reef supply little bubble keg thing. So it's a see-through, double-walled, so it keeps your drinks hot, cold, and you can see what's actually in there. And that one is free on the orders over $350. So add it to your cart before checkout. It'll turn it free.
I think I need to go snag one for myself. One of the first ones, like, yeah, I want one of these.
It's pretty nice.
I'm going to add it to my collection. All right. So into today, you're going to also see a bunch of the special or the giveaways as well. So I'll just tell you real quick because you probably already heard them. Everything on the table here. Give a tip on how to use any of this stuff. Your experience, especially today, if you have experience using any of these bacteria, tell everybody how you used them the most effectively. I think a lot of people appreciate it. If you've used a DC skimmer like this and you liked how it worked, man, tell the universe tips on how you used it. If you use ceramic media like this, share which ones that you like the most and how you've used it.
And if you use these pumps, because there's a ton of you guys out there who have used these Reef Octopus VarioS pumps. I mean, you could just go read the reviews and see. And it was one of our most popular sellers too for 2019. So that means a lot of you have tips on using this guy.
One of the things I like about the VarioS over some of the other options is it comes in 4 different sizes, right? And specifically, if you only need the small one is this little guy.
It's a little tiny guy.
Yeah, and that's what we use actually on the ULMs. So like little teeny guys, and then if you use 2 of them, they fit inside your sump area much better. So, and it's one of the options that actually has 2 cool options. One, it actually comes with a strainer on the front. Also comes with a float switch, so if water level ever gets low, it just turns off automatically as well.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Quiet, also reliable. All right, and so we're also taking people to Reef-A-Palooza. I think that we got
6 winners so far.
6 winners. There's like 4 more to go. So
Yeah.
that'd be Thanksgiving, actual Black Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We announce on Monday. So we got 6 pairs of you guys. All you do go be is a Preferred Reefer to win and have something in your cart or bought something in the last 30 days.
Yeah, same thing with the $10,000 in giveaways.
Yeah.
I pick about $1,000 a day, and today was really shopping cart heavy today. So a lot of people are listening, adding stuff to your shopping cart as a Preferred Reefer, get you in the drawing for here. And on Monday, we're going to announce how many people have order refunds. I think I gave away a $500 shopping cart today. And plus a couple of order refunds.
So if you bought a 5-stage RODI replacement filter kit, one of the things on your cart you could have won. If you have bought a refillable DI cartridge as one of your things, you could have won. If you bought some Vibrant, you could have won. DI, man, this is like a theme here. The All-For-Free from Tropic Marin is in there. So if you have any of those things, you're like, oh, that could be you. It could be. We'll tell you on Monday, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get on to the stuff here. So Dave, I want you, so one of the things I wanted to just hit right away, just get the bacteria conversation rolling, is you released that video.
Yes.
Like, what was
Friday,
it?
last week.
All
Almost
right.
a week now.
Oh man, it's been a week already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 25,000 of you have already watched it. You got to see the results of adding bacteria to your tank to clean up algae, right?
Yeah, 9 weeks.
So for those of you who haven't seen it, let's see a couple of the beginning shots here. So this is actually one of the middle shots. But the beginning, like one of the tanks. There's 6 tanks, by the way. Let's go back to that first one.
Here we go.
So one of the first ones is actually covered in chrysophytes. There's just that fuzzy algae all over it on the left.
Yeah.
And eventually that broke through, and then hair algae grew up out of everywhere. And then the next one, the chrysophytes again.
Again, yeah, this was on those tanks with the new rock that was cycled during our UV test. And during the UV test, developed what was on the left. After 9 weeks of Vibrant, the right is what's left over.
All right, what's the next one here? All right, so
this one is the end of our UV test, so the beginning of our Vibrant test, and this was all of the old established live rock that we had no idea was algae ridden. And then after after 8 weeks of running UV and doing a UV test on them, this was what was left over.
Yeah, so the one thing I learned is never take any rock out of the skimmer testing tank. Oh my gosh, been so many types of algae coming out of there.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
tons of ova.
So yeah, there's all the algae all over the place. All right, so Dave, come back to me. So this is what we did. I went down this morning because we're continued dosing the Vibrant like we have been. We wanted to get that video out before Black Friday. That's why we cut it off there.
Yeah.
But and it takes a week or so to actually edit it and get it all done. So I went in today and I took some shots with my phone. So forgive like the quality here. But I wanted to show you where 2 more weeks where that landed us, right? So let's go to the 6 different tanks that all looked like total garbage, right? Here's the first one. All right, so algae gone.
Yeah.
Thin film of algae,
I would venture to guess that green stuff on the green hue on the rock right here that we're seeing will turn into coralline algae. Or will eventually be coralline. The bottom of the tank is covered in coralline. All of this is going to be
But all that hair algae, all the chrysophytes, all the, just clean, right? So next one. All right. So this one, and you saw in your video, still had like what, 50% of the algae on it?
This was one of the ulva rocks. So ridden with ulva, and now not so much ulva.
Yeah, I think we're probably down to 30% coverage from 100%.
Yeah.
Right. So just continued process. Again, in some cases where it's just plague problems, maybe 3 months took you to get there. Maybe it's 3 months out.
Yeah.
Next one. Clean again, right? And so all that algae was on the top on this one and totally gone. All right, next one. All right, again, like probably 70% reduction here. It was 100% coverage and it looked terrible like those original tanks.
Yeah, in this test it was ulva algae ridden, probably one of the worst ones of the bunch. And then similar to one of the other test tanks, it developed a newer kind of algae during the Vibrant dosing. And then after about 3 more weeks, that algae started to disappear also. So it turns this like white translucent color and then starts to slough off.
All right, next one. All right, again, total wipeout of all the algae. Little green film left, comment on new live rock, dry live rock, goes away on its own usually. And is that the last one? Oh, we're missing one. It doesn't matter. So there's 4 or 5. So, or 5 of the 6. So sorry I rushed you so early. This was like literally last minute to get these in here. And so, like, here's the thing. I have one of the things that is totally missing of this whole thing is we zero anything else. Right?
Oh.
There's no crabs in there. There's no snails in there. There's no manual removal.
Yeah.
We did nothing.
Well, and somebody made the argument, well, there's fish in there that could eat algae, and that was true, and they did eat some, but in the same breath, like it took 8 weeks to develop that algae with the same fish in there, and similar, the fish didn't really impact the algae growth. They just kept growing and growing and growing. So I would say that the fish were not really an element, not an impactful element to the algae removal.
They're in all of them anyway.
Yeah.
So one fish. Hey, will you throw that Dave up? Throw that comment you're waving on here. It asked about UV, whether or not UV was running, and we left UV running on 2 of them just because it's bacteria. These things are designed to kill bacteria. Except for these bacteria don't live in the water column. They scavenge the surface of rock, so UV is probably not going to have an effect on it. And we saw kind of mixed results. Like one of them, it took a little longer.
Yeah, there was the one with the newer rock that had the chrysophytes and stuff. That one, resurged with some hair algae and then came back and then was, a nice clean rock at the end. But that one was running UV. So what I would consider to be a minor impact from the UV of the bacteria. But then opposite of that, in the Ulva tanks, the one running UV when we were dosing Vibrant to the Ulva-ridden tanks, that one actually did the best. It ended up with like an 80% loss of the algae that was in there.
Okay, so I want to share this. So I agree. I don't think the UV had a big effect on it. Not surprising because it lives on surfaces, not in the water. So the one thing here is this tank right here. This is where this all started, this conversation. This tank was just riddled in bubble algae, right? And I don't know if anybody here's fought bubble algae. I've never seen anything like eradicate it from a system, right? Maybe your like some fish will eat it. Maybe your crabs, like emerald crabs will eat it, or whatever they pop it. More or less, if you get the right ones and get lucky, they just kind of keep it in check. It's not going to eradicate it from the system. In this case, man, it like turned silver inside of a couple of weeks and it just floated away and was gone.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything that you've ever done to a tank just cause a bubble algae to just poof out of your tank, right? And same thing with all those 6 systems there, right? I've never seen anybody do anything to a tank where I'm not removing it, I don't got any snails, and I don't got any crabs, and I'm not like doing anything. I'm just dosing a product to the tank, and like all of a sudden, like hair algae gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things out there I've seen, I guess, do that. Like one of them is fluconazole. I've seen that do that. That one like works a little differently though, in the essence that like it stops some kind of metabolic or metabolic process inside the algae. And I'll say I haven't seen it like hurt any tanks, but I definitely see like reduction in alkalinity uptake after I dose it, so it's doing something. So fluconazole does that in some cases, but these are just natural bacteria that are helping you eliminate it from the tank.
Yeah.
So real cool. I've never seen any of the results like this, so it's super fun to talk about.
So the question is Vibrant the only one that can do this? And there's similar products out there, similar bacterias out there.
I'm just going to kind of break it down. I would say you're just gonna have to trust the manufacturers to some degree on what they're telling you and how these different things work, right? And so I'll break it down. So the Dr. Tim's, I talked to Dr. Tim, and he didn't really say that this is going to work on algae per se. It's just going to clean all the gunk out of your tank, right? So all the pockets of gunk, it's going to help dissolve it, help your skimmer, help your filter socks, want to remove it from your tank. So this one also, Biomate, designed to do the exact same thing. Haven't tested it on algae. The one here for CyanoClean, designed specifically for cyano. If you got that problem, I would use this one. All right, and so Vibrant, designed to do a whole lot of things, man. Vibrant's a revolutionary liquid aquarium cleaner. You can say goodbye to algae, cloudy water, and grungy, dirty aquarium and say hello to that sparkling, crystal clean thing. And so for those of you that are wondering, man, like where the existence of this is Jeff actually runs a high-end maintenance company here in Minneapolis and also hangs out with a bunch of lab nerds. And so said to him, like, hey, the tanks that I take care of every 2 weeks or a week look awesome.
Yeah.
The ones that I take care of every 2 weeks, less so.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, oh man, I got a solution for you.
Yeah.
And so they built this solution together, and now we can help dose in between those 2 weeks, and those tanks looks awesome. Even though he's only maintaining them twice a month.
Yeah,
right?
we actually talked to Jeff and brought him on in the 360 in one of the 360 live episodes. So if you want to hear his thoughts and the whole story too, that's definitely worth checking out Jeff's.
So also he says if you use it from the beginning, no algae from the beginning, right?
Who wouldn't want that?
Dude, that's groundbreaking, man. If you can eliminate algae as a problem for first-year reefers,
Yeah, I'm in it for the
success
long
rates,
haul.
man, like go skyrocketing. So very cool. And it's cool to hear that background of like why it exists, and then why like, oh yeah, I'd like to maintain my tank the same way,
Right.
too, at home as well.
Yeah.
Twice a month, right? And then so there's MicroBacter7 and there's MicroBacter Clean. So Clean goes after algae a little bit more aggressively than the MicroBacter7, right? So Clean is if you're running algae problems in your tank, MicroBacter Clean would be the option that you have. And so what he said is the heterotrophic bacteria in the MicroBacter7 tends to be better at going after the things like cyano and diatoms, or not diatoms, dinos. And if you go read like the endless threads on how to beat dinos, like one of the favorites definitely ends up being MicroBacter7 for that solution. Again, it's like a dormant bacteria, so it takes a little longer to kick in, a week or so for them to start to come alive.
Yeah.
And you do need to dose a lot of these things because they're not bacteria that naturally exist in seawater, so they do need to be dosed. They don't naturally replicate in the tank.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the breakdown of all of these. So these are very specific purposes. Clean your tank, clean the cyano. This is a little bit MicroBacter7, a little bit more for the bacterial issues,
starting the bacteria.
protozoa like dinos. Algae, MicroBacter Clean, and then this guy kind of claims to do all of them. I don't know. We just only used it on algae here and saw stunning results. So really cool tools for challenges that all kinds of us run into.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on this one, you get one of these actually free today if you buy one of these bricks. So the bricks help populate different types of bacteria as well. Half of them that are in the MicroBacter7.
Sweet.
Right.
And there's a few tips I'm seeing come in about some vibrant and microbacters.
All right, so let's take some tips, and then I'm going to talk about the skimmer a little bit later on, maybe 20 minutes or so from now. So let's take some of those tips.
Mike says MicroBacter7 doesn't need to be refrigerated, so store it.
Yeah. That's one of the things is some of the live stuff out there doesn't tolerate like extreme temperatures real well.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the reasons why the MicroBacter7 is so popular here is because it's in a dormant state and it tends to survive travel a lot better. So there you go.
So does that mean I can put it on a dosing pump if I wanted to
you probably
dose it
could.
regularly?
I know people you learn something new every day, right? And so I looked at this kind of product as something that you would use to start a tank.
Right.
And then I'm finding how many people are using it
for problem
solving,
Yeah.
and they just continually dose it in the same way that people continually dose Vibrant every couple of weeks, just to make sure that they keep some of those things at check. We all run into issues in our tanks over a long enough timeline. And so, again, man, we just keep saying this, dude. Ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure. And in this case, it's a literal ounce. Ounce of solution. And this stuff is super cheap, too. So it's not like you're investing your life into it,
Yeah.
And, you can, avoid a lot of problems that people have. If you can eliminate algae from the list of problems that you'll ever run into, I think you've doubled, triple your success rates to 5 years, It's just something that so many people run into.
Yeah, William has a good add-on here, and he says, Vibrant is good, just take it slow, don't dose it heavy. And it goes back to what we've been saying, we've probably said it a couple times this week, and as we continue to look at bacterial products is, this little bit works, that doesn't mean all of the whole bottle is better.
So that was one of the things I just straight up asked him, is hey man, I'm reading all these reviews on the Vibrant, and all of them are so glowing, and then there's people hey, it caused dinos or cyano in my tank, and he's like, dude, it doesn't cause any of those things, right? It's if you immediately wipe out all of this plague problem in your tank, something is going to replace it, right? And so you don't want it to happen fast. Instinctively as a human being you do, I just want all the algae gone. But you don't. You want to have it slowly be removed from the tank. So if you're seeing results, if you didn't see this video or any other ones, and you saw partial results, the knee jerk is use more.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And it isn't. It's just use it longer, right? And if that doesn't work out at 2 months, then up the dose a little bit, man. But be patient, because you do want it to go slow or something will replace it, right? And keep in mind too, if something replaces it, what caused this problem in your tank might cause a different problem in the tank. So you do have to go after the source of the problem. You know, maybe you're not maintaining your tank enough, maybe you're overfeeding, maybe, you know, whatever. Sometimes it's just bad luck. But like, you know, can't solve bad luck, but you can solve those other things. So think about it before you put it in there. And like it is, go slow. Don't have those types of expectations. And that's kind of like one of those things. Like if I'm using this CyanoClean and I had used like a
ChemiClean or
ChemiClean,
red slime.
and I saw it go away in a day.
Yeah.
I'd drop this thing in tomorrow. I'd say, oh, this thing's garbage, throw it away.
Yeah.
But if I know ahead of time and somebody tells me there's a much more natural way to do it, and it's going to happen over the course of a couple of months, and it's probably not going to come back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah.
my expectation now is 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, or what have
I
you.
set my proper expectations, and I'll get the proper results. So that's pretty cool.
Let's see. Jackie adds to that and says, the tip is vibrant is not an excuse for poor maintenance. And Jeff actually recommends continuing, and you really should, continue the maintenance that you normally would on your tank, maybe even increase the maintenance so that you can help the vibrant solve the algae problem. But like in our test tanks, we did nothing other than just watch vibrant work. Most people will probably be actively ripping that stuff out as much as they can, manual removal, water changing it out, and a variety of different things.
So yeah, there's all kinds. It's definitely a true statement, right? Like it doesn't mean that you can just go be lazy about your tank, right? It will cover up lazy for sure, right? It won't see the results, but you can look for lazy in the other areas. I just say the same thing. Like, you know, my doctor tells me this all the time. Like, I like to make smoothies in the morning, and I put spinach in there and protein powder. It ends up tasting gross, but I'm just not a breakfast person, man.
Yeah.
So, and like, I need to get this nutrition some way. And he's like, dude, that's not a replacement for a proper diet. And he's right, but it's also way better than a donut, right? I'm getting fruits and vegetables and a source of protein and stuff. And so way better than a donut. So yeah, it will probably, in this case, you know, cover up some poor maintenance, but yeah, not excuse to neglect your tank for sure.
Let's see. Chris says, pro tip, a cleanup crew is a better way to clean algae and your tank than chemicals. Natural is better. So he's in that, I'll take a natural approach.
Well, I mean, so like this, I wouldn't call this a chemical. I call it bacteria.
It is.
It is not natural bacteria to seawater in most of these cases, but it's something that eats algae. You know, I don't think you can argue about like which one of the cleanup crew is natural to your specific, you know, reef biotope or whatnot. But like, I have never seen anybody. I would say good maintenance includes crabs and cleanup crew
Yeah.
and snails and all that kind of stuff. I have so rarely seen somebody solve an algae outbreak with a cleanup crew. Right, it's part of the solution of keeping it at bay afterward.
Yeah.
But like, there's this disconnect sometimes between the, you know, good maintenance that will make sure that you don't have this problem, and then once you have it, okay, now I need a pound of cure. Like, so I need to beat this thing back, man. So the things that would have avoided it are totally different than the things that's going to get me out of here, right?
Okay.
And so that is totally true statement. The cleanup crew, and I like to think of cleanup crews to include fish, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Like,
utilitarian fish.
yeah, some fish will just keep the algae gone, and almost to the point that like a tang gang is not an excuse for poor maintenance, but it will like make sure the algae is totally gone from your tank in most cases. So totally different option. In fact, if you want, we have a video that we just released, a 5-minute guide on like how to remove algae, and it has a series of natural methods, and they get more progressive or more aggressive as each stage goes on, and you can kind of see like the way that like it makes sense for most people to approach this one step at a time, more natural, more aggressive each time when they don't work.
I think you hit on this in the 5-minute guide too, and it's a question that a lot of people have. Jason says, if using bacteria, use 2 to 3 different kinds to ensure your tank is populated with the best biological diversity. So we're talking about diversifying the bacteria, because not all these have the same bacteria in them.
No, they're all different things. And so one of the things you should note though is, and it's not super apparent until somebody tells you, is most of these things are going to die. So they have a life cycle in the tank, you know, and they don't reproduce, right? So you can't say I added them all once and now they're all in there.
Yeah.
Right. And so some of them, like the MicroBacter7, has like a few different autotrophic ones for the ammonia. So it's those ones will probably repopulate in the tank, but like not all of them will repopulate. So you actually have to dose them. And one of the things that definitely the people that are fighting the dinos, right? Which for those of you who don't know what it is, just like don't go looking because you don't want to know. It's a real pain in the butt. And actually, we applied the system today. Maybe I'll shoot a little live tomorrow or something. It's Thanksgiving, but soon.
Oh, yeah.
We eradicated the dinos inside of 3 days from the 750, and I'll tell you
yeah.
how we did it. But I guess it was 4 days. But it's not, if you catch it quick, you know, if you're 4 days in, it takes 4 days out. If you let it grow to a plague problem, man, it's going to take a much bigger problem to get out.
Yep.
So in that case, though, a lot of the people are like, this is like, I'm going to shut this tank off if I can't solve this problem. It's just slime everywhere, and it comes back every day. It doesn't matter how much I remove. In that case, I would say start with the one that the community likes the most, MicroBacter7 being one of them. I know that David, or the Rev from Reef to Reef, solved it with, his dino problem was going on for many, many months, almost shut his tank down over it. He solved it with a heavy dose of Vibrant. But I know that also people are using the Waste Away and the Refresh for it as well, right? And a combination. But some people just like use one, it ain't working. It's time to up your game, man, and you know, use a slurry. And one of the things that they'll do is like get the populations in there, get them eating the stuff, then black out the tank, right? In which case the photosynthetic organisms like the protozoa and dinos will stop reproducing and start dying back, and it gives a chance for all of these other bacteria to go take over that real estate.
Adding on that, Aaron says, pro tip, don't wait until the total takeover when you see early signs that it's time to take action.
So I'm going to agree all the way. Like, so on the XXL 750, we saw the early signs of it. You know, we have somebody taking care of the tank every single day. Saw it, all the signs of it. We're starting to pester a couple of the corals. We acted, and in 4 days it's gone, right? Because it was 4 days in, 4 days out. If you wait for the populations to explode, that they're just covering every available surface, it's going to be a hard road out. So recognize it and go look for the tools and get your way out.
Let's take a look here. So here's a question from Nate. Nate just wants to know, he says, do bacterial products hurt good algae, for example, like macros or my refugium, or just the bad ones?
So that is a good question. And so the way that, like, I haven't asked the rest of these guys, but I have talked to Jeff about it at Vibrant. And basically he says, you know, Vibrant will go after the easiest stuff first. You know, so like
simple-celled algae and stuff.
You know, the chrysophytes and the hair algae and stuff like that. And then it has a harder time, you know, with the like Bryopsis. In our case, it looked like the Ulva and the turf algae and stuff. It will beat them in a long enough timeline. So Chaetomorpha I would put in the same category as a really tough cellular wall and whatnot. It will eventually go after it at high enough doses. So in most cases, it's probably not going to be a major problem for you, but I think it'd be wrong to say that it has no effect. Right? The other thing is, though, is like, you know, you can just remove the algae, man. You know, you can just take the Chaetomorpha out, put it in a bucket with a heater, and throw some fish in, or throw some food in there. It'll be fine for months. Man.
That stuff lasts quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not going to die. Throw your light on, it'll be fine. So you can actually just remove the Chaetomorpha from your system if you wanted to. I mean, it depends on how dependent your system is on that filter. So, like, don't just do that blindly. But yes, it should have some effect, but probably not the effect that you're worried about unless you're dosing a lot. If you're dosing a lot, it's going to be more aggressive towards those types of algae. But, you know, I haven't tested this. I don't know for sure myself, but like common sense says it's not going to avoid Chaetomorpha. But common sense also when he says it, and in our experience too, is the more advanced algae with a more advanced cellular structure, thicker cellular walls and whatnot, it tends to go after those last, right? It goes after the easy food first. And so that seems to be the case.
Common question too, George says, you know, how does this bacteria affect coral and fish? So there's algae in the coral, the zooxanthellae and whatnot, does it affect those?
Okay, so I haven't seen any negative thing to coral. I will say there are people out there that have said I dosed any one of these things out there and killed my tank, killed some of my corals. I've seen that thing with red slime remover. I've seen that, and so it's really hard to say why 1 in 100 runs that way. And this is my only guess, and so this is just a guess, right? But we've used red slime remover and ChemiClean here. Have you ever seen a negative effect?
From the only on the cyano.
Yeah, only on the cyano.
Yeah.
Never on the coral.
Yeah.
Only positive.
We've done it to the 160, and that thing is still running hard and charging hard. There's several customer service tanks, and I think even Zach's tanks probably has had a dose of it before. And full of SPS, full of corals, no issues.
So the only downside is sometimes it comes back, right? Because that's kind of a temporary Band-Aid to some degree, but it will wipe it out. I've never seen that, but if you go looking, you'll say I use ChemiClean to kill all my fish or coral or whatever. So here's the only explanation that I have for this. Either it was used wrong, right? Didn't follow the instructions with it, or more likely, the reason you're using this is often because this tank wasn't, maintenance super well to begin with. There was issues here that caused the problem that you would be using this thing to begin with. And so a lot of these corals are already stressed. And so any stressor will push them over the limit, right? The average person can't tell the difference between super 10 healthy and 4 healthy. They can tell the difference between 4 and I'm losing tissue, it's literally dying before your eyes, right? Yeah. It's hard to tell 4. You have to be a pretty advanced reefer to be able to see that, right? And so, for instance, when we did the blackout and we did we dosed some of these products to the 750, we absolutely lost 3 or 4 corals. But some of them were already stressed out, from thin tissue and whatnot. Yeah, and so they're already stressed out. And so when you take away light for 3 or 4 days, man, they just pushed them over the edge, right? So some of these things, who knows what's exactly happening, there's nobody on the planet that knows 100% why that's the case. So you could, if you think your tank is super struggling and on the verge of going over the edge, it could, right? If you think otherwise, everything is generally healthy, it probably won't, right? So there you go.
Let's see. There's a few more bacterial stuff in here, but lots of skimmer stuff coming in too. Well, let's pick up. Okay, if you have a super plague of algae, use Vibrant in combination with fluconazole.
A 1-2 punch, right? So yeah, especially Bryopsis used to be this unbeatable thing, right? And we were all dumping 8 billion gallons of magnesium and stuff. Yeah. Sometimes worked, sometimes didn't, sometimes came back. Also stressor because you're increasing the salinity drastically, and there's no clear reason or rhyme of how to do it. So if you added all that magnesium, the salinity went through the roof. If you fix the salinity down, then every other element in the tank went down, including calcium alkalinity. So you dump out calcium, it was just a total mad scientist thing. Yeah. Now, the fluconazole on its own can wipe it out. Fluconazole, and I would say it works kind of like this. The fluconazole will way wipe it back. The Vibrant will now 1-2 punch. It won't come back. It'll be gone. You'll eradicate it from the system. So, yeah, that's a great tip.
Robbie says, put the dimples down on the bricks. So when you're installing the bricks in your system, dimples down, and that's basically just for water flow through the whole thing. Yeah. And that's why they're there.
So one of the things I like to do with these things is stack them, right? And then put them in where water is going to flow through through the whole thing. So that's why the dimples are there, is to allow flow instead of just stacking brick on top of brick on top of brick, where the water will just go around it. So that's a great tip.
Greg says, use a controllable outlet for your protein skimmer so when you dose bacteria or aminos, you can manually shut it off and automatically turn it back on when it's recommended. So, especially when you're doing something like ChemiClean or something like that, where we know it makes your skimmer just go crazy, and it's recommended to shut your skimmer off for that purpose. You can control it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, a lot of questions in here, but let's tip to make sure to acid clean your Venturi inlet on your protein skimmer. Calcification will close down the air intake where the air and water interface.
So I'm going to transition this conversation over. This is a good one, by the way. Make sure to clean it, maintenance, because that's a super common place to lose air performance. So last night and this morning, I was actually writing a script for how to tune your skimmer, right? And so, like, air is absolutely a big one, and there's like areas like this where, you know, this is going to reduce the amount of air and performance, right? And so, like, one of the things, man, like, all I was ever told was change the knob, you know, lower it and raise it, and you'll tune. That's how you tune your skimmer. All right, so let's take a step forward into the universe. Let's learn something new and think about it differently, because I think we can progress this conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So the thing I like to refer to the most is a combustion engine, right? And so in a combustion engine, I add oxygen or air, and I mix it with fuel, and to create a controlled explosion, and it has a desired result, right? If I have too much fuel, then the engine starts to struggle. It gets covered in carbon, and eventually will fail. And it will also, you know, sometimes just get totally flooded and just stop working entirely, right? If I have like not enough air instead, it will start to run really erratically, and then eventually just stall out and stop working too. So it's not about like more air, more better, more fuel, more better. It's like, I think the mix is like 14 to 1 or something, right? And so in a combustion engine, this is a foam engine, right? If I just throw more air in, it doesn't produce more results, right? If I just throw more organics in, it doesn't produce more results. It just doesn't. What it does is I need to mix the right amount of air to the right amount of fuel, which in this case is organics, to produce a desired result. And I'm gonna start using the words running lean and what's the opposite?
Rich.
Rich, right? So too much fuel is running rich, not enough fuel is running lean. So this is what happens when you run rich in the tank. And this is, you can start to spot this stuff, and then like once you see it, like, oh yeah, that was me. And then now I know a solution to solve it, right? Okay, so what happens if you run rich is you'll get really dark, like skimmate on the top. The foam is super brown. It's usually got like visible flecks of stuff in it, and the neck is just covered in like gook, right?
So rich mean I have too much organics, not enough air.
Yeah, and so same thing with your like combustion engine. It's just filled with carbon deposits and stuff because it wasn't working right. In this case, it's super brown water, but it's not actually producing that much foam. Right, like the foam's actually not going over the top, and in some ways you can change that by just changing the reaction chamber, making it smaller, essentially by turning the water level up. But you might find that that actually doesn't like help as much as you thought it would, right? And if you are that person, you'll understand immediately. If it just works for you, you probably won't. But one of the other problems is because it's all that garbage is collecting inside the neck, I'm making the problem worse every day, right? And you can see it visually because the water's all brown. You know, the foam is actually brown. It's not leaving, it's just collecting in there. And it's getting essentially running richer and richer and richer and richer, right? Now, with the case of a skimmer, one of the benefits is you can actually just take the scup out,
Clean it
out, and you have all that gook, and you can actually just remove it that way.
Yeah.
You know, that's one way of export, but I wouldn't call that running optimally.
Right.
Right? It still works.
It works.
You know, to some degree. All right, so what happens, this is more important, this is a more interesting one. What happens if you're running lean, right?
Lean, too
Not
much
enough
air.
organics.
Yeah.
Not enough organics for the amount of air that's going in there.
All I'm seeing is massive wet bubbles, and just probably where maybe the overflowing the skimmer cup stems from and things like that.
This is where, like, those of you who are like, I just can never get my skimmer to work, I don't understand.
Yeah.
This is you. Okay, so this is what it is like I got foam all the way up to here, and it's just like boiling at the top, and it never does anything. I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, why does it work for Jerry and not me? You know, we have the same skimmer. I don't understand. This is why it is, man. It's because what we've done is we put so little organics in there and so much air that like the foam or the bubble doesn't have enough tension from the little bit of organics in there to hold the bubble long enough. And I'm blowing so much air through the top that all the bubbles just pop.
Yeah.
And so what it looks like when you have this problem is top to bottom air, man. It's like amazing, and you can't believe it. And then at the top, it just looks like boiling water. No foam is being created, just boiling water at the top, and it sucks. right?
Yeah.
That is when you're running lean. That is what it looks like. There's not enough organics or too much air, same thing, right? And I don't think you're going to solve this by feeding more necessarily. Like
Well,
the goal is to like get organics out, not put more in.
And when you're running lean, every once in a while you might expect that it does actually work, and that's probably like the organics fluctuate in the tank. So sometimes my fish poo a little more, sometimes I got a little more food in there. So in those times, you'll start to see, well, it only works some of the time, it seems.
So boils most of the time, and then other times overflows. And this is why it's going to do that, is because you've been told to use this valve, right? And so this valve, what's going to do is you got this boiling point, and I'm like, well, there is a little bit of foam that could go over, and so I bring it right up to the top of the edge there, and then an hour after I feed and the stuff, the oils and all this stuff breaks down, all of a sudden it just explodes because there's a bunch of poo and there's a bunch of food and whatever, and it just explodes. So like, when my skimmer's getting super inconsistent results, same thing as the combustion engine. I got not enough air, it sputters, it works really inconsistently, and then eventually it just stalls out and stops working.
Yeah.
All right, so what this should look like, if you're running a like well-tuned skimmer, is it should look like foam kind of top to bottom, but it's holding a decent head and consistently flowing over the edge. And by consistent, like not 100% of the time, but you know, every 15 seconds you kind of see a little bit flow over the edge, like, and consistently throughout the day, all the time. You see like just some, and it's not dirty brown, and it's not, you know, it's wet enough that it's actually flushing the stuff over the edge, not collecting inside of the cup.
Yeah.
It always collects some, but like not just a thick paste with no liquid inside here, right? And so it'll be that thick foam that's just consistently going there, and it'll be white, not brown, because the brown is now in your cup, not just getting concentrated and running richer and richer and richer at the top of your skimmer and decreasing performance over time.
Yeah.
So that is what that will look like if you're doing that. And so one of the things is like, well, how do I fix that? Well, if you have a normal AC skimmer, you know, and I want to add more air, the easiest way to do that is increase the water level in your sump,
okay.
right? Because no, there's not as much head pressure for the pump to deal with. It'll pump more water, which will suck in more air, and you get more air, right? And so that's probably the best way to do that. The other thing is that tip that you just saw earlier. Clean out the pump and the venturi, because the faster the pump works and the more open the venturi is, the more air you'll get in there, so maintenance it. Outside of that,
I could add a valve on the air intake line to cut some air down on an AC skimmer, but
Can't
there
add
is a
more.
point of diminishing returns too on that.
yeah, well, right now I'm just talking about adding
Yeah.
more, right? So you can't add more with a valve, right?
No.
So you're probably gonna, if you do all those things and you realize, well, you know, like it's not working, you got to decide at that point, like I may have this skimmer that's undersized for the intended purpose, right? And you don't need to go run out and replace it or anything, but now that you know, if you end up adding more fish and the problem gets worse or it just doesn't work at all for you, you now know why, and you can go and fix that problem if you want to. But you at least now have the underlying understanding of why. Now, if you want to do the other, which is you're running lean and you want to reduce the amount of air, which is super common now because there's so many of these skimmer pumps out there that kind of got caught in air wars.
Yeah, just
so,
push air.
Yeah, there's so much air. But it doesn't necessarily work on your system, and you want to tune it back a couple ways. So you say your first one. You just said.
Yeah, well, so we tested like the somatic skimmer. It comes with a valve that you can put in your airline, and then a needle valve. I can close it and open it. And even like the Red Sea skimmer, I saw somebody. It does come with a valve that for your drain line, and I saw somebody put that on the actual airline to control the amount of air that way too.
So the skimmers do the same thing, except for on the silencer, there's a little knob on the top that you can close off the air on the silencer to reduce the amount of air. So I'd say that the skimmers out there that have already addressed this understand how this tool or foam engine works and are giving you the tools to do it instead of having you jerry-rig it afterward, right? And so in that spirit, one of the best ways is, do you have the little control panel for this guy?
It's the same as
thing
that.
as this thing. All right, so there's 5 speeds here. This is it, right? This is why DCs are going to be, not only are they quiet, which is like number one, and
Right.
why anybody have a DC one, but now I want more air, plus sign. I want less air, negative sign, right? And what that allows me to do is buy a skimmer that's probably a little bit oversized for my current system when I put 3 fish in it,
Yeah.
crank it all down to 1, get the foam that I'm looking for, then use the knob to get it to where I collect it properly. And then when I start adding more organics, because I'm adding more fish, and then I'm adding more food, I can crank it up to 2. And then when I added more and more, 3, 4, 5, this thing scaled with my tank and the amount of stuff that I put, or food and organics I put in it, and it works way more intelligently. So like once you understand that like the foam engine here, that's what it's designed to do, and we can run it optimally instead of just plug it in and hope for the best, you can start to understand why this thing works, right?
Yeah.
And for everybody that wants to understand why organics in the water, like why they'd pop, just think for a moment, like everybody here has blown a bubble wand, right?
Oh yeah.
And so if I buy this stuff, I can walk up to it and just blow right through it, right? No problem, man. There's enough organics in that solution that it will hold a bubble, and I can blow 50 of them and just blow. All right, what if I dilute that solution by like 5 to 1?
So hard to get the bubble to maintain
so
consistently.
hard, little, just like and it's just gonna pop the second that I get it out there, right? So same thing here, man. If this skimmer was designed for 5 times as much organics as you actually have in your tank, it's just you're gonna blow so light, it's just gonna burst, right? And that's why all that air is coming out through. This is essentially the bubble wand, at the end, right?
True.
And if it's just coming out so fast, you can see it. You don't have to even trust me. You can just like look at it and what? Yep, they're all popping. There's definitely poop in this system, and there's definitely fish waste in this system, or excess food, but it's not coming out.
Yeah.
Why is it? And then when you turn the air back, and you're like, oh.
No.
Well, now it gives it a chance with the amount of organics in there to create a proper bubble foam head, and it will come out. Like you'll see it before your eyes, right? And then you're like, I totally get it. Right. So that is what I'm hoping to put a video together, like sum that all up into something a little bit easier to track
5
with,
minutes
probably. Hopefully about 5 minutes or so. But like that is why the DC skimmers, man, are so cool, and why these Octopuses are 15% off today. And if you're like looking to upgrade your system, you're like, I want to upgrade the filtration on my tank, I want to upgrade the skimmer that I had before, and I want to do it intelligently, like this is one of the easiest ways. And it's not just a Regal. Go find any of the DC options out there. I know the 25% off of the Skims ones. I will say the like Octopus Regal driven pump is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Also, they're probably only 10% off, but the Elites was one of the best of the year. In fact, for those of you who don't know, didn't watch it, the best of the year protein skimmers 2019 that Randy and I voted on.
Yep, was the Reef Octopus line by far.
Yeah, it was Reef Octopus line, but it was the Regal. It was at Randy's choice for best of the year, and for me it was the Elite. They're both driven by these pumps, both DC. So like you can go check out that video if you want. But like I think maybe we can answer a couple of questions on protein skimmers here.
Yeah.
Or tips rather.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hopefully you guys spit out some really awesome tips on how you use these things.
James says, pay attention to the water level your skimmer is in. Most have a recommended water height. However, trial and error may be needed to get it just right. This is something that I played around with in my skimmer testing, where we tested at different levels, from 5 inches up to 11 inches. There is a difference in air performance, but some of those just didn't work in like 5 or 6 inches, and some, on the opposite, also didn't work on the 10 and 11 inches.
This matters the most with the low wattage pumps. So you're looking at those like 13 watt pumps or whatnot, the really small ones. They're really finicky to the water level, and of course, because they're so small. The ones that are like 40 watt pumps seem to tolerate water level heights a little bit better. But yes, so water height is one of the best ways to adjust the amount of air in your tank, or amount of air going into the skimmer and water flow through it. Start with a recommendation.
Oh yeah.
You probably threw the instructions out a long time ago, but they all have them printed. They're on our website. They're also on the manufacturer's website.
Yeah, I think in 95 to 98% of the cases, the manufacturer's recommended water height for all the skimmers I tested seemed to be the optimal place.
And then, if you want less air, you can make it shallower, because then the pump has to work harder to get the water up there, and there's head pressure. Water flow goes down, the Venturi sucks less air as well. If you want it to suck more air, you can make the skimmer deeper, and now the pump have to work hard to get the water level up, and you'll get more air and water in there. But so know what you're doing when you're changing the water level, but start at where it's at. And some of them actually make there's mounts. If I just have a sump level I can't change, you can actually put the skimmer on top of something. They sell like skimmer stands and whatnot.
Yeah. Let's take a look here. Oh, there was a cleaning tip here from Alex on skimmers, and he says It cleans the skimmers by running them with vinegar and RO water for about a day to clean everything. That's inside the pump, inside the body. Just take all that buildup down. Citric acid also works.
Yeah, so there's no harm in most cases, unless you got something really elaborate going on, to not running a skimmer for a day. So just put it in a bucket, do what they're doing, citric acid, whatever. They're using vinegar here. We tend to use citric acid more often now than vinegar for a variety of reasons. Is this stuff still on sale? Must be 50%
The
off,
citric
at least.
acid? Yeah, it was buy two, get one, 1 day only, but it is 15%
Now
off.
50% off. So citric acid powder, you can create the solution. You can just set your skimmer in the 5-gallon bucket and let it run, and it'll probably be good enough. You can also disassemble it, and it's probably even better practice. But yeah, awesome.
Cody says, take your time when adjusting the skimmer. It takes about 10 minutes or so for it to adjust. So after you make a gate valve adjustment, air adjustment, or any one of those things, just walk away for a while and go do something else. Come back and look at what your skimmer's doing.
Yeah, so remember, when I'm using this valve, I'm increasing or decreasing the head pressure on the pump, which means I'm not just changing the water level in here, I'm changing the amount of air and organics that are being fed to this skimmer, right? So that is a great, great tip that everybody should know. Make a small change and don't even look at what it actually did right now. Go away and come back and see what it did. So don't try to do it to the eye. Start somewhere and say, all right, I'm gonna make half turns every half hour until I get where I want it to be, right? And it'll be way better off than trying to eye it up, because so many dynamics change when you change that lever.
Eric says, keep an extra BioBrick in your current tank so that when you set up another tank, you'll be able to cycle it faster.
We do that in all kinds of tanks. We have a whole stack of these sitting in a lot of systems.
Yeah, steady supply of them, just ready to go at any moment. Let's see, Charlie says, buy a larger pump than what you'll actually need. That way you can run media and reactors off of the same pump instead of multiple pumps. So if you're looking to manifold or something, you do need a little extra pressure than what you would think you would need. But I could also make the case, Charlie, for 2 pumps, specifically for redundancy if you're just using them for returns.
Yeah, so that's one of the things we really, in the last few years, is 2 return pumps. Is if you're setting up a system, this is the heart of the system, and it will fail someday, right? And so, this connects all the filtration, all the heat, all everything. And we all know that it will get stuck with something over time, calcium carbonate or whatever, right?
Something's going to shut it off.
Yeah, so if you had 2 of them running, then if one stops, man, the other one is still going, right? And it's just a way, way, way better design. And in fact, in most cases, or in many cases anyway, 2 smaller ones are about the same price as a big one. So it's really just the plumbing that costs extra, and it's just a great, great way to do it. But one of the things that I will say too is that if you under or oversize the pump, not everybody has time to maintenance their stuff every month, would be best practice or whatnot. So if you notice the flow is going down, I can actually just turn it up 1.
Yeah.
Right, and it's gunked up with some stuff, or I can just turn it up 1. Not the best practice out there, but if you just got to be real with your amount of time and what your life really supports, that's a great way to oversize it and then just crank it up as need be. Especially if you have a flow meter from Neptune or whatnot, and it tells you, hey, your flow went from 500 gallons an hour to 400, boom. 500 again.
Crank it up.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Robert kind of leads into that too. He's saying plumb your skimmer cup to a larger collection container, preferably with a float switch, so that it will shut off the skimmer. So efficiency saved here and maintenance saved. Your time is valuable. And they actually, the Davy Jones locker, I think from Avast, was a really good skimmer collection cup.
Got carbon in even it to make sure it doesn't stink.
Yeah, it's got a pressure switch, a pressure sensor switch in there, so it's not a mechanical float switch. It recognizes the pressure buildup, so when it's getting full, it'll shut your skimmer off. But solid option.
That's one of those things too about all the Regals and the Elite DC-driven skimmers here. This guy right here, right? So it has a little float built into the top of the skimmer. If you don't use, you could actually take this out probably and put it into a bucket if you wanted to, right? You could buy one of those fancy things too. But in this case, you could probably just take this guy out, put it into a bucket, and it'll turn your pump off when the bucket gets full. In this case, just by default, when the skimmer cup gets full, just turn it off. That way, it just doesn't bubble all over the place. You're not seeing foam pouring out the holes on the top and making a mess out of your sump area. And a mess isn't just a mess, but it's a wet mess next to a lot of electrical gear, which is called a fire hazard.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so like having things turn off instead of spraying water is pretty nice.
Yeah, this is something I did on my own when I had I had a skimmer, and I have a breakout box on my Neptune, and I made essentially the same thing. I put a float switch in my skimmer cup so it would shut it off automatically and then send me an alert.
So you can do that. One of the things I found was hard to actually DIY that is finding a float switch this thin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because what it has to do is actually fit in between the area here, between the skimmer neck and the inside. And it's pretty small, and like most of the float switches that we found either didn't go down deep enough or they interfered with it. And like I've even seen people like by accident try to put them in the middle, but that doesn't work for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And so like, yes, you can do that. It's not as easy as you think to find the tools to do that. So maybe we could go find one for people actually. So hopefully Zach or somebody's out there or Robert's out there listening, and they'll try to find a thin, long float so you can do that. But you could use this, or you could do what he's saying. The Davy Jones lockers and stuff have their own. Octopus actually has one
they
too.
do too.
You plug your skimmer into it when it gets full, and that way, if you're running optimally, it's a little wet or wetter, you know, and like I can clean it out way less frequently.
I can go on vacation too without having to clean it out every week.
Yeah, that's a big point.
Or every
man.
few
Like,
days.
the vacation stuff always comes up, right? I mean, I need to leave for a week, and I want the skimmer to run the whole time. I don't want to come back to a polluted tank.
Yeah.
And so, but I also don't want it to like overflow all over the place. So those Davy Jones lockers, the Octopus one, I'm sorry, I forget what it's called, and I think we have another one too. Like, there's a few options on the website.
If you scroll all the way up to the top here, Dave, there's a comment I'm looking for. Drama D says, don't forget to hit that bell and also set a reminder so you can check out today's Doorbuster.
That's nice.
That's a good tip.
Thank you for looking out for us. Yeah, so hit that bell, you get like a notification on your phone, and you turn on push notifications and stuff like that. It's awesome.
Let's see here. Harkin says, use the resources you have. Find a local reefer who is doing what you want to emulate and emulate them.
I just can't give that like more props, man. Like I hope that like I've seen this comment more and more frequently. And I hope it just starts to permeate. Like it's, you know, the reality is like I go to an average discussion, and you know, somebody asks a question, and there's like 100 answers.
Yeah.
And 10 of them are right.
So
Like right, and 90 of them are various degrees of right to wrong. How am I as a new person who am I supposed to listen to?
how do you wade through it all? Yeah,
It's really hard.
And you make the point in several occasions is stop listening to everybody and listen to somebody. So Harkins has got this.
Well, it's kind of like if you imagine like you went to a classroom, right?
Yeah.
There's one teacher and there's 30 students that are all your peers, right? In that room, I can tell really easy because the person I should be listening to is taller than me. Right? Or wearing a better suit or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or the front of the room. I can spot who I'm supposed to listen to immediately. In a community discussion, you know, especially when online, it is not that easy.
No, yeah.
100 comments, 10 of them are the perfect answer, 90 of them less so. The chances I'm going to find the perfect one, if I'm not really looking for it, are actually 90% against me.
Yep.
And I can tell you that I struggled that way when I started, because I was just looking, you know, for a consensus and really kind of fit my own way in because it wasn't really clear what I should be doing. So that's a great tip, man. Look for somebody who's actually done it before, what you're trying to do, you know, like, meaning like budget matters. Like, if you're trying to listen to somebody who's going to tell you need to spend $8 million to set up this tank and you don't have $8 million, don't listen to that person because they're not useful to you. If you find somebody that's in your budget range, like if you like DIY stuff, you know, find somebody who does DIY stuff. If you like somebody who does only anemones, find somebody who does only anemones. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you should be hunting for that kind of thing because they're going to give you the best advice, and that advice is going to make you so much happier than like just continual failures that I went through. I learned in the hardest fucking way possible.
Yeah.
And I just totally swore on camera, but I can't help it. It was super hard. It was really, really, really hard. So there you go.
Let's see. Arnold says when cycling new rock, drop a sphere or two of marine pure and some microbacter and ghost feed for a few months. Bam, seeded rock.
There you go.
To add to the DT.
Yeah, I really like these conversations about using some of these bacteria. I think 2020, man, is you're going to see lots of people like Man, I used it. And so this is actually one of the cool parts. So this Vibrant thing, and it became really popular. And did you remember the story as how it became popular?
No.
Okay, so this is how it became popular. He didn't do any advertising. Didn't tell you like, hey, this is the best stuff known to man. He gave it away to 100 people. 100 people used it and said, holy cow, and told 100 more, right? Look what it did to my tank.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna happen in 2020. You're just gonna watch, like, it doesn't matter. Like there's like, you know, people, including myself, that doubted some of this stuff. But once you see the result, it's over, man. I don't even care like the exact mechanism. I don't need to know.
Yeah.
All I know is it's gone. Like my problem is solved, right? So I think you're gonna see that really evolve.
Yep.
All right, we're a little towards the end here, so let's answer a couple more. We'll remind everybody that's missing what the contests are. But right here in just a second, what you're going to see is a link to the Vibrant video, actually. And then down here, maybe the whole playlist, because these are awesome tips, and you can learn stuff from all the people here that are sharing all information and really get to understand all this stuff. So we'll give you that all in just a second, answer a few more, and we'll get there.
All right. Adam says, set a calendar event and check and clean your pumps quarterly to twice a year. A few minutes a year can save your tank.
Yeah, absolutely. I forget. If you asked me last time I cleaned something, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, who knows. Yeah, so great. Write it down.
Joshua says, make sure you have plenty of surface area for your bacteria to colonize.
So it's specifically, if you're like thinking bare bottom stuff,
Yeah.
man, like you've got to figure it out, because the rock in your tank may not be enough.
Oh, and I'm usually, I'm aquascaping my tank with a minimal amount of rock because I want to have room for the corals to grow and fill up that space. And I just don't like a big giant wall of rock in my tank.
Especially today with all the artificial rock that we're seeing, so probably less so when we're using like some of the dry or even live rock that came out of the ocean.
Just less surface area in general.
Now the mined limestone, the cement, and all the artificial rock, which makes up like 90+% of what we're all using, just doesn't have the same porosity and surface area available. And so, yeah, find ways to add surface area to your tank.
Caleb says, for smaller nano tanks, use part of the BioBrick in an AIO chamber, all-in-one chamber. And if you do run, if you want to run bare bottom, so same thing as what we got talking about here. The sand is not in the equation for surface area; it's the rock. And a lot of these are malleable, or I can cut them and I can shape them to fit. In which case, I can shape them to fit in the back of an all-in-one chamber.
Yeah, so like in the E170s and stuff, they got those little cartridge. You can just cut out a brick. We do that in the experiment tanks in the lab there. And so this is one of the things I like to point out is we've been using Marine Pure for a long time. Totally works on all of our applications. That one's the most malleable. Like you can cut it like almost like butter. I'd probably use a butter knife. I usually use a hacksaw just because it gives a nice straight line. Right?
Yeah.
This stuff, however, is a little different. It is way harder. Like, you can't crush it or even brush stuff off the edges with your fingers. It's just a really, really hard material. So they're not all the same. They all have kind of different, things to them. But like, if you're looking for a hard one, this is definitely it.
Sweet.
All right, so we'll just get to the prizes again, and we'll share those two links in just a second. But for all of you, all this stuff is free. You just got to be a Preferred Reefer and have something either in your cart from the last 30 days or bought something in the last 30 days, and all this stuff will be free. We'll give it away on Monday. Also, if you want to come to Reef-A-Palooza, hopefully we'll get a trip over to or Worldwide Corals. Maybe we'll tour their facility. Maybe we'll go grab cocktails or something, hang out with the crew. And 6 different pairs of people have already won.
Already on their way.
4 more. All you gotta do is be Preferred Reefer again, have something in your cart, or bought some in the last 30 days. If you have taken part of the sale, and when I say taking part of the sale, it can be 2 things.
Yeah.
You bought something,
or you got something in your shopping cart.
You're just like dreaming, man. Right? Like, I don't know. I can't really afford that skimmer he's talking about, but I can put it in my cart and hope I get it for free.
Yeah.
I can do that. So throw the thing in your cart, and like in either case, on Monday, we're going to give away, there's tons of carts in here, there's tons of orders in here. and we're giving away $10,000 worth of stuff. So check that out.
Yeah.
And
so keep the tips coming for your chance to win all the stuff on the table. Go back to the other days, and you can find that in the playlist up here.
Right here, playlist?
You can go back to the other days and get signed up to win with your tips.
if you want to see Randy's experiment on Vibrant, 25,000 people already seen in the last 6 days. It's right here. All right, see you guys.